often think of restorative practices as being a system or a method that you can use when there's wrongdoing or harm caused in your community. And that's the furthest from the truth. 90% or more of restorative practices is about relationship building. And if you take the time to build relationships among the people that you work with, then when problems do arise, you're more likely able to come to a very peaceful solution because people care about each other more as human beings than they did before. Former superintendent years ago came to me and said that there was this training on restorative practices, and it probably wasn't until halfway through the third day where it dawned on me the power of restorative practices. I had just spent 2.5 days with complete strangers for the most part. Some of our school staff went along with me. But what I realized was that in those 2.5 days, through this process of relationship building, what I realized was that I got to know this group of people better than the people I had been working with for the past 10 to 12 years. And so now when we use the circle process, restorative practices, our focus is mainly on just relationship building. So we use, prior to every staff meeting starting, we have a team building activity that staff is engaged in. And then we do use restorative practices as needed throughout the school year when something comes up where we need to sit down together and talk about something.
For me, a big thing is buy-in, because if the staff don't buy into the activity, it won't go well. And I think that has gotten easier. At the beginning, you had a lot more people who were like negative about standing up and doing whatever weird crazy thing we made them do. But now they're just used to things. So this last staff meeting, we were making the rings or a chain. Yeah. And Tony Patty at the end says, "It's funny when you add a competition, a stupid activity like this, people get really into." I'm like, thanks, Tony. Like, you try coming up with a new idea every week.
Yeah, I think absolutely what Kaylee said, the idea of buy-in is essential, because you have all these different people who have a lot of other things that we know they could be doing, and trying to communicate this really does have a value, even if it's something really goofy. Those relationships enable us to work better as a team. The fact that I've been able to do goofy activities, learn more about somebody, just spend more time with them on something that's not explicitly academic most of the time, enables me to have the relationship where I can go to my colleagues about things that are challenging involving students, involving interpersonal relationships that may pop up, challenges. All these things create a space and a culture where I feel safer and more confident and more able to do my job with everyone I work with, and brings out characteristics of people I didn't know they had, and allows me to see them more as individuals and not just colleagues, which is really awesome. I love that.
Someone once told me, trust the circle. The level of wisdom that comes out of the circle when you pass the talking piece and everyone's voice is heard, it's astounding. The responsibility of sharing wisdom doesn't fall on one or two people. The wisdom is within the circle and amongst all of the staff. And so as the talking piece is passed, you'll be sitting there listening, and you'll have these moments of like, oh, wow, that was really wise. What they just said is incredible. And so the beauty of the circle is that the wisdom comes from everyone. And someone who may be reluctant to want to hear wisdom from you or me, when that wisdom comes from one of their other colleagues whom they respect immensely, it has a greater impact on that person who might be at some point in a disagreeable mood.
So Rob always usually has started the year with a staff circle, talk about your summer, what are you looking forward to, and then we always end the year with a circle. And then he's used it as needed throughout the year. Obviously, the latest school shootings brought up a lot of emotions for people, I think, and so like that moment of just connecting with staff that you might not necessarily see throughout the day. Tracy and I are on complete opposite sides of the building, and so it's really nice sometimes with the circles to hear from people that you don't see or have lunch with, and then realize that you're really not alone in your feelings. Sometimes it's nice to know, like, oh my gosh, I was having a hard time, or wow, teaching is really hard right now in a pandemic and being a new mom and just other things. And when you hear other people are going through the same thing, it's reassuring.
I agree. Those types of circles are good because you do realize you're not by yourself. You're not the only one that has this issue in your classroom or this issue.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because you go into those circles having this opinion, but after hearing everyone, you're like, okay, actually, I can see that. I can see how, even though I might not like this approach, how important it is in second, third, and fourth. So you sometimes leaving with a completely different perspective, which is the power of the circle.
I know.
I find out so much about my colleagues in those circles. And I feel like at the beginning, people are very surface level, but people start to share things that you wouldn't have known about that person or wouldn't have expected. You start to see connections other people have with each other. And it's really, I think it really like ties us all together and makes us feel more connected as a staff.
Over the course of my 24 years as principal of this school, there have been 2 moments in time where restorative practices helped us immeasurably. One was when a student passed away, 4th grade student. We used the restorative circle to talk about our feelings and share our grief, and it was therapeutic for everybody. And it was the strength of our relationships which got us through a tragedy in 2019 when one of our colleagues, a school social worker, passed away. But it was the relationship building that helped give us the strength to get through that difficult time.
Restorative practices, it was kind of like you knew how people were before the pandemic hit, and then the pandemic really changed people and impacted people in ways that you probably didn't even know it was going to, and myself included. And on the other side of it, you know, I think having some of those circles where people could share, like, this is why I'm still wearing my mask, or this is why I'm still testing myself once a week. This is why, you know, you might think I'm a little wackadoodle and crazy, and like, I think it made us more appreciative just to kind of get that sense of, I don't know, we're still all in it, and don't forget like who we were, and be there for each other.
I was skeptical from the first time I started because I walked in, I'm making a name tag that has feathers on it, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, what's this training going to be like? And is this just going to be a waste of my 3 days? And what I found out was that it wasn't at all.
I totally thought that too when I got hired, and I was like, oh, I went to this 3-day training. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a really long training. And by the end, I was like, I wish this was longer than 3 days. This is amazing to learn about these people and learn more about yourself. I don't know, it is the power of the circle. It sounds so corny.
It is so hard once you do those trainings and you do have those really amazing, powerful discussions not to leave there thinking, wow.
When we think about restorative practices, the ultimate goal is that we have stronger relationships, we're able to better handle our emotions, we're able to better communicate interpersonally. And so finding ways that fits, whether that's team building activities, whether that's talking circles, these are all tools in our tool belt. It's not about finding one specific approach, it's about creating relationships, it's about creating unity. And when we can do that, we're happier to come to work, we're more excited to work with our kids, we're more able to overcome challenges because we feel unified, we feel cared for.
Be skeptical, and even if you reluctantly participate in the process between the relationship building activities and things like that, and then the circle process, what you'll find out in time is that the process works, that your staff will buy into it. You'll find that as you watch the staff participating, whether it's a restorative circle or in the relationship building activities, you're going to find that they are enjoying it, they're having fun, they're liking the idea of sharing their stories with each other, and that the outcome is extremely beneficial to the climate and culture of your school.